All right, welcome to the 24 topics. And so the 24 topics are straight out of the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the Red Book. This is the book that is needed to guide through how to build a successful real estate agent. So what happened was Gary Keller and Jay Papasan and Dave Jenks went out, they interviewed the top 100 agents in the nation and said, like, how do you build your business? And they went through and they documented everything that these top agents were doing. They put it in a book so that we can actually take it to our R&D department, rip it off and duplicate and live big lives through building these businesses worth owning. And so through the 24 topics, right, it goes through about the model, your big why, your 80-20, how to stay in touch with people, lead generation, your budget, your organization, your economic models, how to create energy plans, all these different things. And today we're going to talk about the big why. And so today's subject is going to be about the big why. What motivates you? What is the one thing that helps you get out of bed every day to do what needs to be done to live your life by design? And so again, right, the 24 topics address the key issues for experienced agents. Each topic has associated pages in the book, and consider these your golden pages. So anything that we're going to talk about today lives in the MREA, and you're going to be able to go through and start documenting it, highlighting it, starting putting this thing into action. This thing is a living, breathing document that is going to help you build your business. And then commit these to memory, tab them, and be prepared to share them, right? Like this book needs to be going with you everywhere that you're going. So in the MREA, it's really about this. It's about thinking big, aiming high, acting bold, and living large, right? This is that life by design. This is creating that career worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, right? And legacies worth leaving. Like this is everything that you're going through. And this is what business is about. So when we go through it, there are models, right? And that is number one, is building the models. And if we build it on a model, it's a stable foundation. And what happens is if we get a little too creative too quickly, it gets unstable, it gets shaky, and then we don't know what it's really going to look like. So we stand on the shoulders of giants. And as we're going through and building these businesses, utilize the book, right? Utilize the book because it shows us exactly how top performers did this, and then get creative later. And you can check that on page 37. So why we look at models is because everyone will hit a personal ceiling of achievement at some point, and adopting the right foundation will enable you to break through your ceiling. And so as we're going through this is what we want to talk about. Let's talk about the big why, right? This is on page 72 of your MREA, and it's titled Think Powered by a Big Why. And it says, above all else, we've discovered that one thing all high achievers have in common is they are working for a big why. The big why is about having a purpose, a mission, or a need that gives, in turn, focus. High achievers always have a big why powering their actions. And so think about this, everyone. Like, this is what separates people. Like, everyone has good intentions, right? Like we're going out there, and everyone tells you like we're here to go make money. And awesome. You know what? Money is good for the good that money can do. Now, what happens when you earn that money? What will it do for you? Is it going to help you pay off student debt? Is it going to put a kid through college? Is it buying your first home? Is it paying down something, right? Like, is it buying your first vacation property? Is it buying your first investment property, right? As you're going through, think about what happens when you earn that money. Because I think a lot of people get stuck and they're saying that, what I do every day is to earn money. And yes, well, what does that money do for you? Is it freedom? Attach it to something. This is a great example of how a big why works in our lives. It's the day before vacation. Miracle. Ever see anyone work the day before vacation? It is truly amazing. No matter how their approach yesterday, today they have become a model for the entire world on how to get things done. Why? Because if they get it all done, they get to go play, right? And so think about that, right? Like anytime that you've ever gone through and you've had something going on, you've been able to get everything else knocked out for the day. And this is no different. So as you're going in here, think about everything. This is big. So the day before we leave for vacation, we're on a time management mission. We don't sit around idly and surf the internet or chit chat with fellow coworkers. We screen our calls, ignore trivial emails, and toss out junk mail with abandon. Maybe we even eat lunch at our desk or on the run. And by at the end of the day, we've accomplished more than we ever thought was possible in a single day. And yet we still have time to pack, drop the dog off at the kennel, and cancel the newspaper. It's simply incredible. How does this happen? Because a big why brings big focus and big energy. And have a little why brings focus and a little energy. High achievers always have a big why. So be thinking about this, guys. This is very, very important. Be thinking about what your big why is. And so the book goes on and says, now imagine if you could live every day with such purpose. How far could you really go? If your motivation to work every day, the kind of motivation that can take you to your highest possible level. Now let's pause that for a moment. For the next couple of minutes, just start thinking about this. What really motivates you? And put down your thoughts. Pause this Zoom, pause this recording, and be thinking about this and put it on paper. Write down your thoughts. All right, welcome back, right? If you pause this thing and you participated, awesome. If you didn't, I encourage you to pause it now and write this down. Put it in your phone, right? Because your phone pretty much goes everywhere with you. Live with this. Now, put your bookmark in this book, right? And be thinking about this. Like if you really didn't participate, I want you to truly go revisit this because this is big. Now, hopefully you've got a good idea of what your big why is now. And chances are that you wrote down something more than source of daily motivation. Most people are driven by a number of reasons and a lot of little whys that can add up to a very big why. At the end of the section, we'll ask you to kind of go through and organize those thoughts, the why, the place, the most important parts to you. But before you can start this process, let's consider a few of the dangers of working for the wrong big why. Because as we're going through this is what we know, guys. Like we think that we know what our big why is, or that we put something down on paper and it doesn't really motivate us, right? Like if I was in a group setting, like what I will see is I will see people doing this exercise and they're putting it down on paper and they're looking at what their neighbors are doing and then they're judging, right? And we're looking at what other people's outsides are doing and we're saying, well, my why is not big enough. And this is the thing, your why can be as big as that you want it to be, right? It's your big why. It's what's motivating you. So don't put something down on the paper that you think is going to be attractive or sexy to someone else. Like this is your motivation. Gary Keller goes on to say, a few years back, a dear friend and him were sharing their business goals for the upcoming year. And he didn't really make any New Year's resolutions like most people did. Sure, he had to have more sales and take more to the bottom line, but that just was one aspect of his overall annual business goals. As they discussed later in the chapter long ago, he discovered the magic of business goal categories. Each year, he simply chose the next achievement target in each category rather than recreating the whole system. For him, business goals are part of a larger personal strategy designated to push him to the limits and make him grow. Unfortunately, his friend seemed to be more about pure ambition and possible greed than about personal development. That misunderstanding was the source of the conversation that we like to relate to you guys now. It was very telling and honest. And he thinks that it helps shed some light on some differences between living with and without a big why. And so, guys, I'm going to read this to you, right? As we go through, it's his friend. When I look at your business goals, I have to ask, why do you want all that money? And Gary responded, what do you mean by want all that money? I don't. His friend then said, why do you set all those goals to get it? It sure looks like you want it. And Gary said, now, friend, no offense, but I don't work for money. You do. His friend said, no, that's not true. And he goes, yeah, it surely is. Because when you have enough, you stop working. And his friend says, well, what do you mean by that? Gary says, I mean that the amount of effort you put in at work is directly related to the amount of money you're getting paid. You appear to know exactly how much money you want to make. And when you make it, you stop working. You're working for money. And his friend says, I guess I'd never thought of it that way. Gary says, try thinking of it this way for a moment. Then go a little bit further. Now you say that you have everything that you need, but it appears to me that you feel maybe you could have accomplished a little bit more at this point in your career, right? And his friend said, Gary, I hate it when you put me through this tough love thing. Gary says, well, friend says, you're right. Gary says, well, why do you think that is? Maybe your focus on money is actually holding you back. And Gary's friend says, I do need a certain amount of money. And Gary says, we all do, right? Try looking at it this way. I also need a certain amount of money. But the difference is I've never worked for money. Never even really thought about it. When I wake up in the morning, my big goal is to do my very best, and to grow as much as possible. Any money I've made is simply a byproduct of the consistent pursuit of personal growth. That's why I set big goals and I work so hard. And guys, think about that. Right, as we're going through this journey, and as things are getting a little bit tougher in the real estate market, be thinking about what is going to motivate you, what is going to blur out all the distractions of what's happening in the news and in the media. We're hearing housing recession, housing bubble. We're seeing higher interest rates. We're seeing a lot of things that a lot of people are giving up, and they're pumping the brakes, right? There are brokerages out there, there are agents out there that are slowing down business and slowing out lead generation, and they're saying we're going to wait till this thing turns back around. And I don't know if you can do that, right? I don't think that's a possible way to build that business worth owning, right? That career worth having. And it's not going to pay the bills. And so as we're going through and we are just getting better, whether that's 1% every day, think about what your big why is, right? So this is what I want you guys to do. Go through and think about what your big why is. Have you thought about it lately, right? Like as you're getting up out of bed, are you thinking about like what you get to do today? And it shouldn't be, oh, you know what, I have to make my cold calls. I have to go door knocking. I have to lead generation, right? It's you get to, right? You get to do these things. You get to do the things that are going to contribute to your big why. I get to make the phone calls so that I can buy that vacation property, and that vacation property is important to me because I get to spend vacation time with my family and we get to create memories, right? We need to attach our activities to our ultimate goals, to our ultimate big whys. And if you're clear about your life purpose, it will give you credibility when asking others to determine theirs. And so guys, we want you to go through this thing. And if we look back on that previous graph, right, the big why, and it says, I want to be the best that I can be. And then so we're going through and fill this out, guys. Go through here and start typing all these little whys, right? Like why I want a vacation home. I want an investment property. I want to pay off my student debt. Like we're putting all these little whys in here. And the big why maybe is to be financially free. And then we have to equate what being financially free means. What does that freedom look like to you? What does that give you the ability to do? And maybe that ability is to spend more quality time with your family on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. This is the power of the big why, guys, because as we're getting very clear what it means to us, it's actually going to give us the big motivation to actually push forward and drive it. So, guys, out of the 24 topics, this was the big why. This was the MREA book. I implore you all, if you didn't do this exercise already, write down what your big why is. Put it down on paper, put it in your phone, right? Go through and upload this. And you're going to be able to have something to look back on to be your North Star to keep guiding you forward. Anyways, thank you guys for coming out here and plugging into this video. This is the big why out of the 24 topics out of the MREA.